This film begins with a horrifying moment for a young woman, Ellen Hutter, where, terrified, she summons a demonic entity, Nosferatu, and makes a dreadful pact with him. It is a force beyond her control. As soon as the ritual is complete, the demonic vampire has relations with her and then slowly begins to strangle her, completing his possession of her. Suddenly, the scene changes. Ellen wakes up with a jolt, her breathing heavy. It was all just a terrible dream. Seeing her condition, her husband Thomas immediately comes to her and tries to console her. He lovingly hugs her, strokes her head, and says, "There's no need to be afraid. I'm with you." But he soon remembers that he has to leave for work. He quickly picks up his belongings, hugs Ellen one last time, assures her that everything is fine, and then goes out. Ellen, sitting alone, is still thinking about that terrifying dream that had taken root in her mind. The year is 1828, the place Alamein. Meanwhile, Thomas hastily leaves to meet a man named Knock Maffler. Upon arriving, he apologizes for being late, but Knock ignores this and congratulates him on his marriage. Then, without wasting any time, he gets to the real issue. A strange and mysterious count wants to buy an old, ruin-like mansion, and Thomas has to finalize this deal. This house is in Wisburg, and the count is quite eccentric and reclusive. Thinking about his future and financial security, Thomas accepts this offer without asking many questions. When he returns home in the evening, he tells Ellen about his journey. But upon hearing his words, fear becomes clearly visible on Ellen's face. She tries to stop him and tells him that before their wedding, she had a terrible dream in which she married death, and only dead bodies were present at her wedding. The most terrifying part was that despite this horrifying moment, she felt good about everything, as if she herself were becoming a part of this darkness. Thomas takes her words lightly and smiles. "Oh, these are just dreams. If I don't go, how will I get a promotion?" He lovingly explains to her that this journey is very important for his career. The next morning, Thomas takes Ellen to drop her off at the house of his wealthy friend, Friedrich Harding. As he leaves, he again assures her that there is no need to be afraid. They share a sweet moment, but a sense of uneasiness still lingers in Ellen's mind. At night, while she sleeps, her fears deepen, and Nosferatu slowly begins to fulfill his pact. As morning comes, Thomas prepares for his journey. As he is leaving, Ellen gives him a necklace, but she doesn't know that she had unknowingly cut her hair at night and placed it in that same necklace. She was unaware that this was a necessary condition of Nosferatu's, and she had unknowingly fulfilled it. After a long journey of many days, Thomas finally reaches Transylvania. The people there welcome him with open hearts. He is happy to see their warmth, but soon the atmosphere starts to feel strange. At first, the people there show him great affection, but then they suddenly start laughing strangely for no reason. Thomas feels uncomfortable. Just then, the town chief comes out and scolds the villagers into silence. The village chief is suspicious of Thomas, especially because of his connection to Count Orlok. He doesn't want Thomas to stay in the village, but Thomas repeatedly pleads, forcing the chief to allow him to stay there for one night. That same night, an old woman gives Thomas a cross and says, "You will need this soon." Thomas is a little surprised but keeps the cross. A little later, he sees the villagers performing a strange ritual. They call a corpse a vampire and plunge an iron dagger into its chest. Seeing this gives Thomas goosebumps, but he can't say anything. The next morning, he is still scared thinking about that terrible night, but he ignores his fear and continues his journey. As he moves forward, he sees a mysterious carriage that stops by itself without any driver. Seeing all this, Thomas feels strange, but he musters his courage and gets in. The carriage starts speeding towards Count Orlok's castle. A pack of wolves is also running behind it, as if he has entered another world. When Thomas arrives at the castle, an unsettling and terrifying Count Orlok is already waiting for him. As soon as he goes inside, a voice is heard. "You are late," the Count, without wasting any time, talks about finalizing the deal. He asks Thomas to have dinner with him and offers him a glass of wine. Thomas talks about the deal, but at the same time, he mentions the scary rumors he has heard about Orlok. Orlok just laughs and dismisses these things as nonsense. He tells Thomas to eat. During dinner, Thomas accidentally cuts his finger, and blood starts to drip. Suddenly, Orlok's gaze fixes on his wound. A strange glint appears in his eyes, as if he is losing control from the smell of blood. That's when Thomas realizes that something is very wrong. But by the time he could understand anything, it was too late. Orlok reveals his true identity and attacks him. On the other hand, Ellen cannot ignore her fear. She tries to convince Anna that a terrible danger is approaching them. But Anna dismisses her words, thinking it's just her delusion. Meanwhile, in the castle, the unconscious Thomas has a strange dream. During that time, Orlok gets him to sign a document written in a mysterious language. A little later, Orlok picks up Thomas's locket and takes out a lock of Ellen's hair that he had unknowingly hidden inside. Satisfied with this, Orlok gives him a box full of gold coins as payment. But when Thomas asks for permission to go home after the deal is complete, Orlok's face hardens. He says in a cold voice, "There is no way back now. You belong here." When Thomas regains consciousness, he sees vampire bite marks on his chest. He now realizes that Orlok has made him his victim. Terrified, he immediately starts looking for a way out, but every door is locked. Thomas doesn't give up and starts going deeper into the dark corridors of the castle. Finally, he reaches a secret room where he sees Orlok sleeping inside a coffin. This was his chance. Without wasting time, he picks up a nearby axe and is about to strike to kill him when suddenly Orlok's eyes open. As fast as lightning, he lunges and blocks Thomas's attack. Panicked, Thomas flees from there. Meanwhile, Orlok takes a lock of Ellen's hair in his hand and starts chanting a strange spell. Ellen, despite being in another world, begins to feel the effects of this dark magic. Slowly, she starts getting trapped in the clutches of this black magic. At that very moment, under Orlok's influence, Thomas finds himself opening the door he had previously closed. But his body becomes paralyzed as if someone has taken control of him. Orlok's power was so great that Thomas couldn't even move. And then, without any mercy, Orlok grabs him and brutally starts drinking his blood. Meanwhile, in Wisburg, Ellen's condition begins to deteriorate. Friedrich panics and immediately calls for Dr. Wilhelm. As Ellen's health deteriorates, she starts muttering strange words as if she has connected to another world. Seeing this, Wilhelm immediately gives her medicine to make her unconscious. In the castle, Thomas suddenly wakes up in fear. He had little time left. He tries to escape from there and jumps out of the window, but as he falls, he plunges into an unknown river and disappears into the water. Meanwhile, Ellen's condition starts to worsen. Her body begins to convulse, and Dr. Wilhelm tries his best to handle her. Finally, Friedrich understands that this is not a case of an ordinary illness, but something else entirely. Wilhelm mutters in despair, "The devil has arrived." At that moment, a nun is gathering wood in a forest when she sees Thomas's unconscious body on the riverbank. Without wasting time, she carries him to the church where the other nuns start praying for him. Slowly, Thomas regains consciousness, but he is told to rest. However, he refuses. "I have to return to Wisburg." Ellen is in danger meanwhile. Orlok was also heading towards Wisburg. He was traveling on a ship with his coffin, grave soil, and plague-ridden rats. Dr. Wilhelm and Friedrich now feel the need for an expert. They look for Albin Elher von Franz, a scientist from Switzerland who was famous for occult research. As soon as Albin is told about Ellen's condition, he immediately understands that she is trapped in Nosferatu's magic, a demonic vampire who brings the plague. Albin had to find out the truth. He challenges Ellen that if there is any demonic power present in her, it should reveal itself. Suddenly, Ellen's body starts to convulse. Her eyes turn white, and Orlok begins to speak through her in a strange voice. The room echoes with her screams. Albin looks at Friedrich and says, "Ellen has been cursed," but Dr. Wilhelm still doesn't believe it. It's just her delusion. But Friedrich starts to feel that Ellen's suffering is connected to Thomas's absence. Before leaving, Albin says, "I need to study this monster more." And he assigns Anna to take care of Ellen. Meanwhile, Thomas finally returns to Wisburg. As soon as he meets Ellen and assures her that her fears were real, he faints and falls. That same night, guards knock on Friedrich's door. And they bring terrible news. A ghost ship has crashed on the shores of Wisburg. This was the same ship Orlok had arrived in. And with him came an army of plague-ridden rats, causing trouble to spread in the city. Orlok was now in Wisburg. His loyal servant, Nock, sees him and falls to his knees, smiling warmly. Nock says, "Master, welcome." Orlok then raises his hands and declares, "This land will now know terror and destruction." The very next morning, chaos erupts in the streets of Wisburg. The plague spreads so rapidly that people begin to die in agony, and the entire city is plunged into panic. Ellen was still sitting with Thomas, crying over his deteriorating condition. Anna enters the room and says with embarrassment, "I should have listened to you." She regretted ignoring Ellen's warning. Meanwhile, Dr. Wilhelm and Albin were studying the corpses brought from the ghost ship. But what they saw was far more terrifying than any ordinary plague. The rats that came off the ship were not ordinary rats. Albin's face turns white with fear. He shouts angrily, "I must see these rats immediately," Albin said worriedly. "This is not an ordinary disease, but a curse." That night, Orlok recited a dark spell, causing the darkness to deepen. At the same time, Thomas was burning with fever, writhing in bed. Suddenly, he woke with a jolt, his breathing rapid. He saw a terrifying sight. Orlok was speaking directly to him. "Watched. Ellen, pleading." Stay with me tonight. Meanwhile, in his study, Albin discovered a terrible secret. Wisburg was in the grip of a curse of the living dead. It was none other than the plague of Nosferatu. That night, Ellen woke from a terrifying dream. As soon as she opened her eyes, he was in front of her, a shadow hovering over her. A cold, ancient voice echoed in her ears. "You are not like humans. I was sleeping in the deepest darkness, and you, my dear, you have awakened me." Orlok tried to deceive Ellen, claiming that Thomas himself had signed the divorce papers in exchange for just a few gold coins. But Ellen was not so naive. She saw through his trick. When she refused to obey him, Orlok threatened her. If she did not bow her head and surrender, Thomas's life would be taken. When Ellen woke up in the morning, she was faced with a horrifying sight. Orlok's plague-ridden rats had devoured Anna. She screamed, trembling with shock and grief. The epidemic had engulfed all of Wisburg, and the city was completely quarantined. Anna, who was on the verge of death, began to show symptoms of the plague. Friedrich sat by her side, comforting her in her final moments. But when Anna's breathing stopped, he went to see Ellen. He was still not ready to believe that this was the work of a demon. Instead, he blamed Ellen and Thomas for the disaster. He angrily ordered, "You both must leave Wisburg." Ellen trembled with anger at his foolishness and left. Meanwhile, in Nock's abandoned office, Albin found an ancient symbol carved on the wall, a sign that had predicted the arrival of Nosferatu centuries ago. Thomas and Ellen returned to their home, but their reunion was anything but pleasant. Thomas helplessly pleaded with Ellen, "We must flee this cursed city." But Ellen was now bound by bitter truths. She slowly revealed her biggest secret to Thomas. "Long ago, before I married you, I myself summoned the devil." A shadow of disbelief spread across Thomas's face. Ellen continued, "We were lovers in the dark, bound to each other, but my marriage broke this bond." Thomas trembled in shock. He stammered, "So is it true? Did you really sign the divorce papers for money?" Their fight escalated. But before Ellen could say anything more, her body suddenly began to convulse. Her breathing stopped, and then her voice changed. She was no longer Ellen. Nosferatu had taken complete control of him. Thomas trembled with fear as he realized the horrible truth unfolding before him. He needed help. He immediately tried to flee, but it was too late. An unseen force took over Thomas's body. He couldn't resist even if he wanted to, and was forced to obey. When it was all over, Ellen woke up as if from a nightmare. He looked at himself in panic, as if he was not aware of any of this. That night, Orlok once again made his presence felt, but this time, with even more cruelty than before. In a horrific display of his power, he brutally killed Friedrich's children. Friedrich, who had been denying the truth until now, was completely broken. When he buried his family, pain and grief consumed him. Now he could no longer deny it. Nosferatu was real. Von Frank felt that there was only one way left, to end Orlok's reign of terror forever. He made a plan with Dr. Wilhelm and Thomas. "We must reach his resting place and finish him." From his years of studying the occult, Von Frank had learned that only one thing could completely destroy Nosferatu: the willing sacrifice of a pure soul. And now, Ellen was the one suitable for this sacrifice. Friedrich, now completely consumed by madness and despair, committed an unthinkable sin. He desecrated his dead wife's body, but he himself could not stay alive for long. The plague took him as well. When the others arrived, he was already dead. They had no other choice. His body and those of his entire family were consigned to the flames. But the mission could not be left incomplete. We have to finish this. With this thought, the mission continued. Meanwhile, Ellen had fully understood her destiny. She summoned Orlok to her room. Orlok's coffin was found. Thomas slowly approached the coffin. His hand was trembling, but he steeled himself. Taking a deep breath, he lifted the coffin lid and, with all his might, stabbed the body inside. But then, a terrible truth was revealed. Inside the coffin wasn't Orlok. It was not. A horrifying laugh, filled with his bloody teeth, echoed. It was just a trick. As soon as Thomas realized, he immediately ran to save Ellen. Meanwhile, von Franz, chanting ancient incantations, set the coffin on fire so that not a single trace of Orlok's unholy presence would remain. But now, in the manor, Orlok had arrived to claim Ellen. Ellen stood there, dressed like a bride, but there was a unique determination in her eyes. Orlok recited his demonic vow to her, which Ellen accepted without any hesitation. I am yours. As soon as this ritual was complete, Ellen completely surrendered herself to Orlok, and he drank her blood. But then something strange started to happen. As the first rays of the sun began to break, Orlok felt that something was wrong. An unfamiliar weakness started to spread through his body. His skin began to dry up. His immortality began to fade slowly. He let out a painful scream. His body was turning to dust. His entire existence disintegrated in Ellen's arms. Thomas arrived there, panting. But it was too late. Ellen was now growing weak. Her breathing was faltering. She fell, and Thomas knelt beside her. He held Ellen's hand tightly. Tears welled up in his eyes, but Ellen just whispered with a faint smile, "It's all over now." With her last breath, the plague came to an end. The darkness that gripped Whisperg was banished forever. And with that, the movie ends here. So friends, this was the story of our film. If you like this explanation, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next story. Thanks for watching. Thank you.